Okay, hey, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have an awesome new update for you from the brand Nodus. A little bit about them. They were founded back in 2016 out of Long Beach, California, which is up in LA County, here in the good old US of A. And basically, Nodus is Latin for node, and it really just plays on the intersection of two paths where quality meets affordability, where heritage meets modernity, and design meets functionality. Now, basically, they're a modern microbrand startup offering high quality, high value wristwatches. Now, this space has really blown up since 2016 when these guys first started out, but I do still find them really at the head of the pack when it comes to that space underneath $1,000. And here we have a great option that's underneath $500. This is their latest iteration of the Nodus Retrospect. Now, this is a model I've had my eye on for some time within the previous iterations, and it was very cool to finally get it on the channel now. So a big shout out to Nodus for sending this one out for me to see. Now, a little bit about this particular model. It's pretty much the same overall look and feel of the Retrospect in general from the previous line. It remains faithful to the predecessor, but it has been increased to a 42 millimeter size for a larger presence on the wrist. And then there's also some other little key details in terms of the way that the end link connects with the case, so on and so forth. But I think it looks really great, and I'm actually kind of kicking myself for not checking this thing out sooner. But again, with Nodus, that means that it is designed, assembled, and regulated in the US. They do have that great 2-year or 24-month warranty. And again, this is under $500 at $475. As of recording this video, they should already be out. This should already be released for purchase. Hopefully they haven't been sold out yet by the time you're seeing this. But with that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Okay, so as you can see here, really, I mean, eye-grabbing in terms of the texture of the dial, really playing in with the texturing done on that really nice concave bezel insert, which is gorgeous. So this does have a 42 millimeter diameter, although I will say that it's only about 40.5 millimeters at the bezel. It's going to be 13.9 millimeters thick and 48 millimeters from lug to lug. This is of course made in full 316L stainless steel, and then it is fully brushed predominantly with some very nice high polished bevels. You can see here along the lugs, that's become quite popular, but it still does pop when you see it in person, and it is still something that definitely just shows that extra mile in terms of quality. Now, the crystal is a nice double domed sapphire with inner AR coating. So because it's double domed, you do get very minimal distortion at harsh angle. You can see even here it's still quite legible, which is a very nice testament. Also, you'll notice the way that the end link butts up against the case there. It's definitely a little bit more uniform, although maybe not quite as quirky as a lot of the times when people will have like a little bit of a slope there where it meets. It does add a bit of a clean element to it, and it does kind of make the lugs flow a little bit nicer and make it feel almost a little bit more pronounced in that lug profile there. So quite handsome, nice and brawny feel to that. And then we have, of course, this great 120 click unidirectional rotating bezel. Very nice. Wow. That was, take it for another spin. Wow. Very nice. But that's kind of what you expect from Nodus when it comes to the tactile points of contact that you're going to interact with, the moving pieces, you know, the grips, the knurling and everything. When it comes to Nodus, they are always pretty much a standout in terms of, you know, your interaction with the timepiece. So definitely on track with that. This is actually a ceramic insert that's brushed, and then it is fully lumed along that index. So that brushing, you can see, is really quite nice, and it helps just, again, add some texture, add some visual play. I mean, I'm not one really for green watches, but goodness, this thing looks gorgeous. I like the tones that they hit. You can see it all ties together. It's not overly matchy, but it absolutely does match in terms of, you know, the right color palette there. So really beautiful. You can see the way the light catches and plays, and then you even do have that green background on the date disc, which I think is really, really nice. Now, in terms of the movement that's inside of here, one of the things that helps keep it down below $500 at $475 is the fact that they use the Seiko Instruments NH35, and it's regulated to 4 positions, so it runs within plus or minus pretty much 10 seconds a day. So I think that's outstanding. No, it's not the sexiest movement out there, but when it comes to a diver, you know, let's face it, guys, Seiko movement is going to be just enough to do the job, and it's going to do it well. And, you know, we spend a lot of money on Seiko watches that have a very similar movement. I will say that it would be nice to see something like an NE15 movement in there, so you get that extended power reserve. But you know, the NH definitely does a job, and honestly, those NE movements tend to be pretty expensive. And then you're approaching pretty much Miyota prices, if not costing a little bit more than a standard, you know, a 9015 or something like that. So we'll leave that discussion for the comments. Let me know what you think down below. And then, of course, getting into the details of this dial, you can see it has this really cool sunburst sandwich dial. You got the date with this really cool kind of loomed, and that's how it's framed at the date window there at 6 o'clock. So very, very cool. And then you're going to have, of course, pretty much the best Superluminova C3 X1 grade lume, and the hands are nicely polished, but because of how much lume is on there, it doesn't even matter if they're reflecting off anything or not, because it still stays quite legible because of the application of the lume. Now, the water resistance on this diver is true to spec. It's going to be 200 meters or 660 feet. The in terms of the bracelet here, it is going to be a 22 millimeter lug width, which fits within this 42 millimeter themed watch. That seems like a great proportion from that standpoint. You're getting, of course, solid end links, and then you're getting this very nice H-link bracelet, as you can see, and then you can see the case back, solid and etched. You do have the quick release adjusters on there, which is great, so you can use toolless. You can actually pull this right off of the case, and then it was already kind of easy because you do have, of course, drilled lugs, which is a great feature. You're getting this great month class, very reminiscent to something you'd find, like, let's say, on a Hamilton, and then, of course, nice and milled with a few micro adjusts so you can dial in the fitment. So with that said, let's go ahead, get it on the wrist, and see how it wears. Okay, as you can see on my 7 1/4 inch wrist, it really wears super well, like you would expect. Again, that 42 millimeters being quite a sweet spot. Not, you know, some people consider 40 the sweet spot. Some people like 41, some people like 39, but ultimately I'd consider 42 kind of right there. I'd say even up to 43 before you start getting into kind of oversized territory, where you're going to really have to be selective with the way that the lugs are shaped in terms of the wearability. But at 42 millimeters, it's just a full-size diver, and it looks great. And you can see there's a beautiful taper there on this bracelet. That H-link is really, really nicely contoured, and it goes from 22 millimeters down to 18 millimeters, which is great. And then also one thing to mention is that it does have screw links. So you're pretty much going to get everything you ask for from that standpoint. It's not a double locking clasp or anything like that, but I mean, when it comes down to it, I don't know how many people are going to be using this as a dedicated dive watch. This is definitely something that you'll be able to wear for water sports, yes, but I think it has a tremendous amount of versatility in terms of what you can just wear, about town, at work, during your recreational time as well. Man, look at that. Brushing is just gorgeous on this piece, and the chamfers, those high polished bevels look fantastic. Of course, the dial is mesmerizing in that beautiful green color. And it just has so many different tones, highlights, lowlights, all kind of coming together really wonderfully. So speaking of highlights and lowlights, let's actually get this piece off wrist, and then we can actually set it up for some low light transition and Lume shots. But just to give you guys an idea, look at the way the lugs slope down and wrap around the wrist. Really great. Also, you do have female end links, so in terms of where this thing is going to wear very, very nicely. But okay, let's jump into that dark time shots. Okay, we'll go ahead and hit the lights here. Oh yes, as you can see, that Lume is just outstanding, guys. I mean, I know the camera's going to try to balance it out as it will, but it's just it's the business. I am digging it. But one thing I also like to work in while doing these Lume shots is work in some low light transition, because you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of times you're going to be, walking through mixed lighting conditions, coming in and outdoors, maybe walking underneath an overhang, the shade of a tree, or just spending time in your favorite automobile. So you do get this nice little moment to see how the watch will appear within that transitional and mixed lighting situation. Goodness, look at the way that the light right now is playing off of the sunburst as well. Well, pretty much the brushing on the bracelet, the brushing on the dial, the brushing on that bezel insert is just gorgeous. Look at that. They just hold light in different ways. And then I'll even get in with some high contrast lining, which typically will expose any type of defects or discrepancies within that finish. But you can see the light is still quite uniform as it glides over that finishing. Although the lighting is harsher in terms of the color balance, it definitely is showing you there that you do have a really nicely finished piece. Whether you're in, mixed lighting, it still stays quite legible, even with the green on green in terms of the Lume with the dial and bezel insert combination. So really, really quite handsome. So let's go ahead and move into some closing thoughts. Guys, on the wrist, it wears a lot, honestly, like my Seiko Prospex Marine Master 200, or some people call it the Marine Master Reduced, Baby Marine Master 200, all that. It wears similar, and that's a 42 millimeter watch. This is a 42 millimeter watch. And it feels like a tool diver should. So I really can't be too upset with that. I know a lot of people are going to argue over 1 millimeter or 2 and say, hey, this would be the perfect watch for me if it was this size. I would just say, guys, don't miss out on a great watch over 1 millimeter. Definitely just try one out. I understand you can't find these at boutiques or anything like that. But find people locally to you that might have them. I will tell you, on my 7¼ interest, I think it wore great. And yeah, not everything can be 40 millimeters. You got to mix it up, right? They do have watches that are a little bit smaller, watches that are a little bit larger, and this one is kind of right in the middle, and I think they do a great job with it. Now, in terms of model variants, guys, check the links for the current availability on there. There are some really great color combos. Pretty much all the ones you can think of for a diver, of course, blue, black, but actually it's really cool gray dial that reminds me a bit of my 62 Max, my little Prospex SBDC 101 dial. And then I think they have this really cool orange with a sunburst. And then the cool thing is you can actually select in between different types of bezel inserts. You can do a steel insert, which looks outstanding with the blue dial, or you can do a very cool matching brushed insert. And then I don't think there's a matching brushed insert for some of them. It's more like an offset where it'll be like a black insert with a white dial or silver dial, or then a black insert with the orange dial. But you guys get the idea. Click the links, see what you like best. But this one was a really fun one to look at, especially for somebody like me who's not huge into green. The fact that it could still leave quite an impression on me, I think says a lot about the character of the watch itself. In terms of comparable models, guys, there's such, it's chock full of competition within this space. But honestly, there aren't that many out there that are packing this many unique design elements into something that actually flows together and creates a handsome package. Normally, those kind of go from one extreme to another within the price range. Either it's going to be too vanilla or too derivative, or just too over the top on the other side of things, right? And I think that's the cool thing about this is it has a little bit of a restraint to the design. It's very clean, it flows very well, but it's clearly not derivative, and it's no homage, at least not a direct homage. It definitely pays homage to the, it's an ode to the diver, but it's not like there's a specific reference that this is really trying to emulate, which I can appreciate. So for me, bottom line on this piece is it's really just another impressive release from a brand that continues to really lead that micro market under $1,000, and in this case even under $500. This thing is really special. So with that said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you like the video, please do hit like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.